then let's go ahead and get started. I'm sure a few more folks will join in as we get going. But again, my name is Dave, and I am one of the owners and operators of Homeschool Tracker. And I just want to spend a second just to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking some time out of your week. I know everybody is busy, especially now. I feel like the summer is almost busier than the school year. But we totally, absolutely appreciate you taking the time to spend some time with us to learn a little bit more about Homeschool Tracker and how you can use it more effectively in your homeschool. You know, our mission here is to not only create products that allow you to be more successful in your homeschool, but also to give you the training and the tools and the support to use those products successfully. And that's what webinars like this are all about, really just to kind of make sure that you are using Homeschool Tracker in the way that best suits you. So we are recording this webinar, and we will send you a link to that recording as soon as it's completed afterwards. So let's go ahead and dig it right into what we're going to cover tonight. We'll start out by talking a little bit about where to find help. If you ever get stuck using Homeschool Tracker or have questions, we'll do a little bit of an interface tour, kind of where you can find things. We'll talk about the difference between subjects and courses, which is really important in terms of setting up your homeschool. Then we'll talk about assignments, which are really the heart of all of your record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. Then we'll dig into lesson plans, which are a really popular and time-saving feature. We'll talk a little bit about reports, specifically the daily task list, which can certainly come in handy. And then we'll discuss workflows. And what I mean by workflows are really just the day-to-day usage of Homeschool Tracker, how you use it day in and day out. And I say workflows just because there are so many different ways that you can use Homeschool Tracker, as you may have noticed if you've kind of dug in there at all. So we'll demonstrate a few popular ways. And I'll probably talk a little bit about those as we go, but we'll definitely circle back to that at the end. And then we'll have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So I'm more than happy to stay on as long as we need to answer all of your questions. Okay, so where to find help? You know, if you've spent any time in Homeschool Tracker, I think you realize that it's a very feature-rich and deep program, meaning that it's kind of an open platform, and there's many different ways to use it. There's a lot of different features, but that doesn't mean you have to use all of them, certainly. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But if you are looking for help, if you have questions or you want some more information, you know, probably the best way are actually on webinars just like this. You know, we do these about every other week or so. And, you know, not only do we do a training session, but then we have it open for Q&A. And so you can really bring any question that you might have, and we'll try to answer it live here online. The next place I would point you to are our Getting Started tutorial videos. So from our help guide here, which is just help.homeschooltracker.com, you can find the Getting Started video guide right here, part 1 through 11. And each one of these are just a few minutes altogether. It's about 30 minutes or so. And you can really kind of just dig right into the specific area that you might have questions about. The other place I would mention is the Help Center here, so help.homeschooltracker.com again. And if you scroll down, you'll notice that it's really a reference guide for all of the different features and screens within Homeschool Tracker. But one trick I like to show folks is that from any screen within Homeschool Tracker, so let me just go to the calendar view here. Oops, let me skip back here. From any screen within Homeschool Tracker, you can click on this help link up here in the top right, and that will take you directly to the help page for the screen that you are on. So in this case, this is the help page for the calendar view, and you can see learn anything and everything you want to know about the calendar right here. And there are links, obviously, to other relevant areas. The other thing I'll mention is the search box up here. So if there's anything you have questions about, you can simply just search for it. So I'll just type in days off. And right here at the top, I can see a link to how to put a day off in Homeschool Tracker. And I can learn all about that there. So, you know, this help site has a lot of great information. But you do have to kind of either link to it from Homeschool Tracker itself, or, you know, just type something into the search box, and I'm sure you'll find your answer. The last place, but definitely not least, I would recommend is email support. So you can email us anytime at support@homeschooltracker.com. And our support staff, that's my wife Amy and our wonderful support person Sherry, monitor that email box all the time. And we'll get back to you within 1 to 2 business days, typically faster than that. So certainly email us with any questions you may have. Even if they're like workflow questions, you know, what would you recommend for this or that? We can answer those as well. Okay, so let's spend a little bit of time talking about the interface within Homeschool Tracker. I'm just going to jump back here and close some of these windows here. And let's go back to our main home screen. So when you first log into Homeschool Tracker, you'll be presented with this menu, and you can always open and close the menu like that. And the menu is broken up into 5 different areas. You have the schedules and planning section up here in the top left. This is where you'll find the agenda, which are essentially your daily tasks or your calendar. And that's both in calendar view as well as in list view. This is where you'll find lesson plans as well as the shared lesson plan library. Below that is the student section. This is where your students are managed, the student list, what grade levels they're in, the grading overview, which will show you each and every grade that they've received for a particular time period, the lesson plans and presets page, which we'll talk a little bit about later, and the transcript supplemental, where you can enter in additional information that would be added to their transcript. Right in the middle is the reports section, and each one of these links here just basically allows you to generate that type of report. And reports can be created as PDF files, which you can download, share, store, email, that sort of thing. And then in the top right is the Manage Lists section of the menu. And I refer to this area as more of a maintenance area within Homeschool Tracker, because each one of these items here, activities, chore names, courses, grading scales, etc., each one of these is essentially a list of items. So the courses link here would take you to your course list. And that's why we call it the Manage List section. And so if you wanted to add a new course, delete a course, that sort of thing, you would go into there and you could do that. And that's why I call it more of a maintenance area, because you're not really going to be in there like day in and day out necessarily, but it's important to know where those things are in case you need to add, modify, or delete any of those items. And then finally, in the bottom right is the Your Account section. This is where the program options are. This is where you can set up your school profile, the subscription and users page where you can modify your subscription plan, create user accounts, that sort of thing. So that's just a quick overview of the menu and where you can find different items within Homeschool Tracker. Okay, so now we're going to dig into some of the nitty-gritty, and this is what we'll talk about here are the difference between subjects and courses within Homeschool Tracker. And this is important because understanding the difference and how they're set up really will influence the way that you set up Homeschool Tracker, and really the whole point is to kind of set you up for success here. So subjects in Homeschool Tracker are really those broad areas of study. So things like math, language arts, history, science, the kind of your core subjects that you would have in your homeschool. And then courses are specific areas of study that kind of belong underneath a subject. So something like Algebra 2, that would be underneath the subject of math. Composition 1 would be a course that would be under the subject of language arts. And Physical Science 1 might be a course that's under the subject of science. So you have the subject, which is really the broad kind of container. And then within that, you have these different courses, and those are very specific. And so you might have a course like freshman biology, or biology 101 or something like that. That would be the name of a course, or you might refer to it as a class or something like that. That would be the name of a course that belongs within a subject. And so that hierarchy between subject, kind of the top level, and then below that course is important if you plan on using courses within Homeschool Tracker. So let's demonstrate what this looks like, because I think that might be helpful. So back in Homeschool Tracker, I'm just going to go to the subjects list here. And you'll see I have 4 subjects, and these are probably loaded in your account by default. We've got history, language arts, math, and science. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot of settings here, because if you recall, subjects are really just broad kind of containers or buckets of other courses. So for example, if I open up history, I could change it from core to elective or make it active or not active. And it lists the courses that I have that are within history. So in this case, I have Ancient History 1, which is the name of a course. But otherwise, not a whole lot to do. If I want to create a new subject, I can always go to Action, then choose Add, and then create a new subject, and it'll add it to my list. Now, a typical Homeschool Tracker account probably has anywhere between 4 and say 10 subjects. Anything more than that, you might want to think about how you're organizing things. Now, a Homeschool Tracker account could have literally hundreds of courses, because if you think about it, over the course of your homeschool career, you may take 8 courses a semester, and 2 semesters a year. You could have 16 courses or more throughout every school year, and that can certainly add up. So, just to give you an idea of what an account might look like. So let's jump over to courses now. I'm going to go to the course list and see what I have there. Now already you can see I have 10 different courses here, and there's a lot of different settings that I can modify. So just briefly, you'll see here's the course Ancient History 1. It belongs to the subject of history, and then there's a few other details here. If I double click that to open it, you can see that I have all these different settings that I can change. But let's go ahead and create a new course. Just go to Action, Add, and I'm going to give this course the name Reading 1. And the subject for Reading 1 will be Language Arts. And I'm going to stop right there because as I was typing, you may have noticed that this Language Arts popped up here. And I can just click on it to select it. And what this is, and you'll see these throughout Homeschool Tracker, these are what we call smart entry fields. And basically, as you're typing, they are essentially searching that corresponding list, in this case, the subject list, for anything that matches what I'm typing. So you can see as I'm typing history, history pops up. Now this can obviously be helpful if you are searching a massive list, right? And you don't know the name of it exactly. You can start typing and find just the right item you're looking for. Alternatively, if you don't know the name of your item at all, you can enter in a blank space and it'll pull up all of the items. So I'm going to go ahead and select Language Arts. Now these other settings here are certainly optional, but I can get more specific in terms of making this course worth different credit units, and then telling it how we want to calculate those credits, etc. But for now, I'm just going to keep the defaults here. And if you want to dig into those details, certainly check out the help pages. So I'll go ahead and save that and then refresh the screen. And there you go. There's my new course, Reading 1, and that belongs to Language Arts. All right, so that's how you would create a course and assign it to a subject. Now, a few things to look out for when we're talking about subjects and courses. I would not recommend using the exact same name for both a subject and a course. So if you have Reading 1 as a course, I would not also create a subject called Reading 1 because that would be very confusing. Am I referring to the subject Reading 1 or am I referring to the course Reading 1? Keep that kind of naming methodology consistent, the broad subject name like Language Arts and then the specific course name like Reading 1. Also, a slash, a forward slash shows the break between subject / course. So if you don't see a slash, that means you're just looking at the subject. Now, let me demonstrate this because I think it might be a little bit easier to see if I show you. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new assignment here. And when I go to basically assign this assignment to a subject and a course, if I go ahead and just open up this smart entry field, you'll see from the list I have history. I have history / ancient history 1. So this first one here, history, that's just the subject because you remember we have a subject called history and there's no slash here. If I go down to this next one, it shows me history / ancient history 1. So whenever we're referring to subject / course like this right here, it's essentially means that, when you see a slash, then we're showing the subject, and then this is the name of the course. So if I want this assignment to belong to the course Ancient History 1, I have to make sure that I select this one. Okay, so let's move on. So we're going to talk about assignments now. And assignments are really these schoolwork tasks that we give our students to complete. So anything that you would want to track over time and that you would, assign to your student, right? Something that would be completed, that might be graded. And, there's a difference. Assignments are a really broad kind of descriptor. Within assignments, you can have different activity types. But basically, anything that you want to track over time, anything that you want to keep your student accountable for should be an assignment. So this could be homework, it could be a lesson, it could be a quiz, it could be a test. They're all considered assignments in Homeschool Tracker. So let's take a look at where these assignments come from. So assignments are right here in the middle, and that's why we call them the heart of all your record keeping. Because as we'll show you, assignments is where all that data is. Who the student is, what date it happened, what the subject course is, what the actual work was it worth different points, is it graded? All of those things are all contained within an assignment. And assignments can come from a couple different places. They can be created individually or in a series. I'll show you how to do that. or they can come from a lesson plan, which is essentially kind of a template for assignments. And once you run that lesson plan through the scheduler, it generates assignments for your students. Now, because assignments have all of that information and all that data, when you have assignments, you can do lots of different things, and you can create report cards and transcripts because, as you accumulate assignments and you grade them, now you have a bunch of data to generate a report card or a transcript. You can generate auto attendance records if you have that enabled. You can create the daily task list, which is essentially your child's agenda for the day. And you can create a sea of other reports because, again, assignments have all of that information in them. And once you have assignments, that means you can then generate reports, which is really what a lot of folks are after. So this is the assignment entry screen, and we'll look at this a little bit closer. But basically, the only required fields within an assignment are a student, a subject and course, and a date. Everything else is optional. Now, of course, the more information you add, the more powerful Homeschool Tracker becomes, because that means you can do more different, more reports essentially. But you have a field for activity. Activity would be something like homework, lesson, quiz, test, field trip, that sort of thing. You also have a field for resource. Resource would be a library item that you've designated a resource. So it could be, like a workbook or a textbook. PLC stands for page, lesson, chapter. So you could put something in there like chapter 2, lesson 5 or something. Directions is a big text field where you can add all sorts of information there. Time, start and end. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you want your assignments to start at 9 a.m. and end at 11 a.m., whatever it might be, you could set that up there. Points possible and earned. This is where your grading occurs. So if it's worth 10 points and you earn 9 points, that's essentially 90%. Time spent, this can be automatically calculated based off of your start and end times, or you can enter it in yourself. And that can be important if you are in say a high regulation state that requires time spent on specific subjects. You can generate a report for that. You can set whether or not this assignment can be rescheduled using the rescheduling tool. And then you can mark it complete by either a student or a teacher. And now once something is marked complete by a teacher, that's when a whole bunch of other things can happen. So when an assignment is marked complete by a teacher, attendance can be recorded if you have auto attendance enabled, grades are generated, time spent is calculated, and from that, all of these reports can be generated. So it's important to remember that not only do you want to create the assignments, but you also want to mark them complete, assuming they have been completed, because that is kind of the trigger to be able to generate a transcript or report card, for example. Okay, so we're going to do a demo on assignments. We're going to create single and multiple assignments. We'll add grades to them and we'll mark them complete. And we'll do that both from the calendar view of the agenda as well as the list view. So let's jump back over here. Now I'm already in the calendar view, but let me just show you where I got there, or how I got there. From the schedules and planning section, you can just click on agenda calendar view. And now the calendar view just briefly looks like a calendar, surprise. And let me make sure I'm on today. Yep, 6:15. So I'll go over the interface of the calendar in just a minute, but let's go ahead and create a single assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add, and we're going to choose Assignment Single. Now this is that entry form that we just looked at. But let's go ahead and choose a student. I'm going to choose my daughter Campbell, and then we'll choose a subject course. We'll choose Ancient History, and then an activity. Let's call this a lesson. I'll pick that. And then a resource, I'm just going to pick this book here. And then PLC, let's say it's chapter 1. And let's have it set up for today, Wednesday. And let's say that started at 8 a.m. and it went to 9 a.m. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And there you go. Now I have this assignment on my agenda. It's Campbell Ancient History 1, and it's a lesson. And I can open that up and kind of get a preview of it. If I click on more, I can go into the full editor here and make any changes. So pretty straightforward in terms of creating a single assignment. Now let's say Wednesday came and went, and Campbell did the work on the assignment, and I want to go back in and grade it and mark it complete. So I can go ahead and open it up, and let me just go to more here. And I forgot to put in how many points it was worth, but let's say it was worth 10 points, and she got a 9 out of 10. And now, so I entered in the grade. Now all I have to do is click on Teacher Complete, and it went and calculated that grade at 90%. and I'll go ahead and save it. So now, once I saved it, you may have noticed a few things. First off, this got grayed out a little bit, and that just shows me that, oh, this assignment was marked complete. The second thing you might notice is this Campbell present up here. Because I have auto attendance enabled, when I marked that assignment complete, it created an attendance record for Campbell for this day. And what auto attendance does, it basically says that it assumes that if you mark an assignment complete on a given day, then that probably means that the student was there that day, so we're going to go ahead and create an attendance record. Now, you, of course, can create attendance records manually, individually, but this is a nice feature because as you're going through Homeschool Tracker and marking things complete, it'll just kind of keep track of attendance for you, which can certainly be helpful if you ever need to create an attendance report. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, and one of the things, especially if you're just starting out, I would even recommend maybe just using Homeschool Tracker just like this, right? And a lot of folks do this when we talk about workflows, every morning or perhaps the night before, they might go in and create, their assignments for the day and put all that information in. And then once the day is complete, you can go back in, grade items, mark them complete, and then kind of do that again the next day. The other thing that a lot of folks are doing is kind of doing this in reverse. So for example, if you're an unschooler or maybe you have another system of organization, let's say you use a binder or another kind of planner, well, what you can do is at the end of the day, you could just go into Homeschool Tracker and basically just log all of the things that you did, just kind of like what we're doing right now. It's 8:22 at night, and let's say, oh yeah, this morning Campbell did an ancient history lesson at 8 a.m., so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And then maybe I'll add another one, some other work that she did. And that way, especially if you're just getting started, you don't have to change kind of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis just yet. You can basically just start by using Homeschool Tracker to keep track or to log all of the work that you did that day. And then you still have all the power that comes with Homeschool Tracker, say at the end of the semester, where as long as you've been entering this data in here, you can hit one button and generate a report card or a transcript or an attendance report or anything like that. So that's a great way to especially get your feet wet with Homeschool Tracker, is to kind of use it as a logging tool, kind of after the fact, to just enter in your information. And again, if you're an unschooler, for example, and you don't necessarily know how your day is going to go, this is another way that you can use Homeschool Tracker, is just kind of use it as a way to log what you did that given day. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about creating multiple assignments, because let's say I wanted to create 10 ancient history assignments for the next 10 days or something. I'll go to Add and choose Assignment Multiple. And first off, you'll notice that this is kind of a wizard here, meaning I go through this process and then it generates something for me. And you can kind of click on these different tabs here to jump to different spots in the wizard. But let's go ahead and choose our students. I'm just going to create these for Campbell. And again, this will be for Ancient History 1. And these will be lessons. And we'll just pick a book here. And I want them all to also start at 8 a.m. and go to 9 a.m. And these will all be worth 10 points. Okay, now I'm going to continue to day and date. And I want these to happen every day. And I want it to start on, actually, let's have it start on the 16th. And I'm going to say continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted. And I'll show you what that means. I could also keep creating items until an end date, but I'm going to use this PLC pattern one. So now if I continue to PLC, now remember PLC stands for page, lesson, chapter. And if you think about creating sequential assignments, it's unlikely that they're all going to have the same PLC, because, one day you might be doing lesson 1. The next day you might want to move on to lesson 2 and then lesson 3 and so on and so forth. So we have these tools here to allow you to automatically increment the PLC for every assignment that you create. And you can do that in a 1-part, 2-part, or 3-part increment. I'm going to just do a 1-part. And I will start with the leading text saying lesson. I'm going to start with lesson 2, since we already did lesson 1. And I'm going to end with lesson, let's see. Let's go to lesson 8. I think this will work out. And we'll increment by 1. Okay? And now, just to show you real briefly, if you wanted to do a 2-part auto increment, this is where you might want to say something like lesson 1.a. lesson 1.b, lesson 1.3, lesson 2.a. You know, that's essentially 2 parts automatically incrementing, but I'm just going to do 1 part here, and I'm going to continue to preview. And now when I go to continue to preview, it's basically going to generate a preview of what I'm about to create. So I'm looking here, and it's going to create 7 items for me. This one's going to be on Thursday, and that's lesson 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through lesson 8, which takes me through Friday of next week. So that's great. So I can create the next 7 items all at once here if I want. So I'll select all of these and then choose Accept Selected Items. So now if I look back at the agenda, you'll notice that I have 2 more assignments here. If I open this one up, this is lesson 2, and then this is lesson 3. If I go to next week, you'll notice that I have 5 more here, and it goes all the way through to the end of the week. So just to show you real briefly that you can create more than one of these at a time. And you know, when it comes to workflow, again, right, it might be kind of the beginning of the week, and you can create you know, 5 assignments for the rest of the week and kind of get it all done rather quickly. And so a lot of folks do that as well when we're talking about workflow. So now what I want to do is show you how to do this also from the agenda list view. But before we do that, let me just walk through a few of the key features here on the calendar view. So up here at the top, these blue tabs, these are all filters because you know, right now we're basically viewing everything that's available to us. But as your homeschool tracker kind of grows, and if you bring in other students and there's a lot of different activities going on, you can imagine that your calendar gets pretty busy here. So you may need to filter what you're viewing so that you're only viewing the things that you want to work on at one time. So for example, you can filter by student, type, completion status, or subject course. So for example, under type, I'm viewing everything. If I didn't want to see attendance records, for example, I could uncheck that and kind of clean up my view a little bit. Now, keep in mind the attendance record is still there. We're just not viewing it. You know, we're filtering it out. So that's those are the filters right there at the top. Below that, you have an export to PDF button. So if I want to basically take this calendar and create a PDF of it to print out or to give to a student, I can just click on that button, and it'll take a second, and it'll download a PDF copy of the calendar, which is great for printing or otherwise sharing. Below that are our navigation buttons here. So today takes you to today's date, and this moves you forward and backward. Over here on the right, these are different views. So I can view a day view. I can view a week view, including Sunday and Saturday. I can do a work week, which just does Monday through Friday. I can view a monthly view here. I can view the agenda view, which is basically kind of like the list view, but shows you each day's agenda. And I can view a timeline view, which is a horizontal timeline. So all these different ways to view the same data just give you some flexibility. Additionally, you'll notice this button here at the bottom that says Show Full Day. So right now I'm viewing my school day, which is 8 a.m. through, in my case, 7 p.m. And you can change that in your program options. If I wanted to view the entire day, I can just click on Show Full Day, and now it starts at midnight and goes through midnight, essentially. And then if you want to go back, you can choose Show School Hours. So that's the agenda calendar view kind of in a nutshell. Let's jump over to the list view, though. So the agenda can be viewed in a calendar view or a list view. Keep in mind it's the exact same data, but we're just viewing it in 2 different ways, and I'll show you why. So from the calendar view, you know, if you wanted to edit an item, you would just open that item and change it, right? But if you wanted to edit more than one item, it would be difficult to do from the calendar view. You can only do that from the list view. So here I'm looking at this week right now. And so I have these 3 assignments. I have 1 attendance record, and instantly I can see a lot more information all at once. I can see where what the subject and course is, what the PLC is, how many points were earned, all of that. You can add or remove these columns, by going to your options and then choose columns. I'm viewing most of them right now, but you can choose which ones you want to view. But it can be a really powerful way to not only view your data, but also edit it. So if I open one of these, I get that same familiar editor. But if I wanted to edit more than one item at a time, which is, might come up at times, I can simply select the items I want to edit, then choose Action, Multi-Edit, and I can edit any one of the fields. So for example, let's say I'm going to grade these, and I'm going to say Campbell got 8 out of 10 on both of them, and I'm going to mark them complete also by teacher, and I'll click save. And there you go. I just did both of those at the same time. You'll notice it generated attendance records for both of those, and I've got grades now for both of those. And now, you know, I'm only looking at this week. If I wanted to move to next week, I could just choose next week and then click OK. And these are the 5 assignments that we have on the agenda for next week. Now, just to show you a little bit of navigation on the list view, because this screen will, the same paradigm will exist on other screens. On the left here in the green column, these are the filters. So just like we had in the calendar view with the filters at the top, those filters exist here. So I've got date range, you know, what students I'm viewing, the types, etc. Now the list section here where all the data is, you know, I have all these different columns. I can resize them. I can sort by them. So if I wanted to sort by date, you know, ascending or descending, I could do that. I can sort by more than one column at a time. If you want to ever clear your sort, just keep clicking on the column until that triangle goes away. We'll do that over here as well. One other powerful tool is that you can group by any one of these columns. So for example, let me just go back to this week. If I wanted to group by type, I would grab the type column here and just move it to this top section. And now I've grouped these items by their type. So I have all my assignments in this one, and then I have all my attendance here. And this comes in handy. I see a lot of folks do this where they group by student. So you can see all of one student's items and all of another student's items. To clear that grouping, I'll just click on this X here. Another powerful feature within the list view is the search box. So if I wanted to search just for items that have lesson in them, I could search and just view those. If I want to clear that search, I'll just click on this green search icon here. So really powerful features within the list view. I spend a lot of time in the list view, but I also understand that the calendar view is maybe a little easier to look at depending on what you like to, how you like to do it. But I think understanding how both of them work and how they can both work for you is definitely important. So for example, we get a lot of support emails where somebody wants to change the subject and course for a whole slew of items. That would be really difficult to do from the calendar view. But from the list view, it'd be super easy. If I wanted to say, let's expand this date range, I'll go to custom here, and I'll include this week and next week. So I'll change the end date, to the end of the month. Let's say I'm viewing everything here, but I just want to view, ancient history 1 items. I could simply type that in here, just type in ancient, and just view those. And let's say I wanted to select all of them, and then multi-edit them. Oops, wrong button. And multi-edit them, now very quickly I could change, for example, the subject course for all of these to something else. That's why this is really powerful in terms of what you can do in the list view. So definitely get familiar with it because I think you'll find it really helpful. Okay, so that's assignments essentially in a nutshell. Let's recap here a little bit. We created single and multiple assignments. We added grades to them. We marked them complete. We did that both from the calendar view as well as the list view. All right, so now we're going to jump into lesson plans. Now, lesson plans defined are basically a sequence of items that have not yet been scheduled as assignments. And they're a little bit different than assignments because they're not assignments yet. They're essentially like a template of an assignment. So a lesson plan item doesn't have a student and it doesn't have a date, but it has everything else. And so the way I like to think about it is imagine you had a stack of lessons, for example, on your desk. And it's a lesson plan because they're ordered in a certain way. It starts with lesson 1, then it goes to lesson 2, etc. And it's just like this curriculum, right, that just kind of stacked up on your desk. That is a lesson plan, right? And those aren't necessarily assignments because you haven't assigned them to anybody yet. So once you want to assign them to one, imagine taking the first lesson off the top of that pile and handing it to your student. That is essentially taking a lesson plan item and then creating an assignment. So as you pull from the top of that stack and hand it to your student, you are essentially scheduling those lesson plan items and creating assignments for your student. Now, the nice thing about this is that they're perfect if you want to plan out everything in detail all at once, or if you're using a predefined curriculum. So if you're the real planner type and you want to go ahead and create all of your lesson plans, you can do that using the lesson plans in Homeschool Tracker. Or, for example, if you have a off-the-shelf curriculum that you bought, it likely came with a lesson plan, or you could create one fairly easily from that curriculum. And you can essentially just create these lesson plans in Homeschool Tracker, and then whenever you're ready to use them, you can simply schedule the items to create assignments for your student. Now, the nice thing is, since they're not tied to a particular student right off the bat, they can be reused over and over again throughout your homeschooling career. So let's say you go through the trouble of creating a lesson plan for freshman biology, and your first student goes through freshman biology, great. You know, a couple years later, your next student goes through freshman biology. Now, because you created a lesson plan, you can just call up that same lesson plan and start assigning those lessons to the younger student. And you know, you don't have to do all that work again. So that's part of the appeal of lesson plans. That also means that you can share these or import lesson plans from our shared lesson plan library. And there are literally almost 1,000, I think, shared lesson plans in that library now, many of them based off of off-the-shelf curriculum that you can import into your account and start using right away. So we will do a little demo here of lesson plans. So what we'll do is we'll see an example lesson plan, because I think that'll help you kind of visualize what it is. We'll create a simple lesson plan. We'll import one from the shared lesson plan library, and then we'll schedule a lesson plan to create assignments, and we'll discuss a couple of different ways to do that. So, oops. So let's go ahead and see an example lesson plan. I'm going to go to the lesson plan screen here. Now, if you don't have any lesson plans, this isn't really the place you would go because there's nothing there yet, but I happen to have a few here. I'm going to open up this Abeka Arithmetic First Grade plan. And you'll notice right off the bat that the lesson plan screen looks an awful lot like the agenda list view. That's why I mentioned that we use this kind of same list paradigm throughout the program. So on the left here, you have your filters, and then all the columns, they all behave the same way that the agenda list view does. These items here, these are lesson plan items. You know, these are not assignments yet. These are essentially that stack of papers on your desk. You know, in this case, lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to the bottom. If you open these up, these look a whole lot like assignments, but there's no student and there's no date yet. Because again, you know, they're still on your desk. They're not assigned to the student yet. So let's scroll down here, and so you'll see that, you know, instead of a date, we have a day number. So on the first day of this lesson plan, they're doing lesson 1. On the second day, they're doing lesson 2, and so on. By day 12, there's an oral test, and then also on day 12, there's a written test. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see that on day 171, you know, we're doing lesson 171. And all together, there are 202 items in this lesson plan. It's literally an entire year of arithmetic all right here, ready to go. So that's really the power of the lesson plan, is that you can create all of this or import it and have it ready to be used whenever you and your student are ready. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's create a simple lesson plan. So I'm going to do that by just going add multiple. And now, just like when we added multiple assignments, you have an add multiple lesson plan item wizard, and it looks very similar to the add assignment wizard. First off is the lesson plan name. Now, it's thinking that I want to add to that existing plan, but I actually want to create a new one. And so I can just do that from right here. I'll just call this sample plan. And since, as you notice, as I'm typing, nothing's popping up, that means when I save this, it's going to create a new lesson plan called sample plan. Let's just make it for ancient history. And these will be, oops, lessons. We'll pick a resource. We'll say these are all with 10 points. And then we'll continue to day numbers. We're going to start on day 1 and increment by 1, which is fine. We'll go to PLC. And let's do a 1-part increment just like before. We'll do lesson 1 and we'll go to lesson 10. Now continue to preview. So now we're about to create 10 days worth of lessons, and they're lessons 1 through 10. So I'll select all of these and choose accept selected items. And you'll notice this too when you're going through Homeschool Tracker. We have this kind of preview screen. The whole point is just it gives you another option to make sure you had things the way you wanted, or you could go back to these different tabs and change things. But you got to remember to select the ones that you want and then choose accept selected items. Okay, so now I'm back on the lesson plan screen. And I'm going to open up that sample lesson plan. And here it is. So now we have a sample plan here, 10 items in it. I'm going to go ahead and add one more to it. And this will be a test. And it'll be worth 100 points. I'll save that. And you'll notice I didn't put a day number, so I put it at the top. I'm going to have this be on day 11. Oops. And I'll save it. And so now we have a lesson plan that goes for 10 days, and on day 11 there's a test. So pretty quickly we created a 11-day lesson plan. Now you can obviously continue this pattern and create an entire school year's worth. One thing I will mention is a few months ago we did a lesson planning webinar where we spent the entire time just talking about lesson plans and different techniques on how to use them and create them. If you're at all interested in lesson plans, I'd highly recommend checking that out. You can find that if you go to our website, homeschooltracker.com, and then click on support and then go to training center. And you'll see the replays for all of our trainings. And this is the lesson planning one. So definitely check that out if you're interested. So that's how we would create a simple lesson plan. Next up, let's import a lesson plan from the shared lesson plan library. So I'll go here and go to shared lesson plans. And now if I want to view all the items in the shared lesson plan, I essentially enter in a blank search here and click on go. And it will load up every shared lesson plan. And you'll notice here, look at all these Abeka shared lesson plans. And I'll scroll, and there are literally hundreds of plans here. All sorts of different curriculum and different plans that folks have created. Now these are also great if you're part of a group or a co-op or something. You're all kind of working on the same thing. One member can certainly create a lesson plan, share it with your entire group, and they can import it right from here. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to look for something specific. I'm going to type in reading, and I'm going to search the reading lesson plans. And I'm going to choose this Usborne First Reading Level 1 plan. And here it is, and it's 15 days, and it has a lot of different resources attached to it, different PLC. So somebody took the time to put this together. I'm going to go ahead and choose Prepare for Import. And now I have to create a name for this, and I will call it Reading 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and select all these items. Now, before I import them, I just noticed that the subject course for these are language arts. So really, it's just a subject of language arts. What I want to do is have these be part of the course, Reading 1, which we created earlier. So I could import these and change it later, but I'm going to go ahead and change them right now. So while I have these selected, I'm just going to choose Action, Multi-Edit. And I'm going to change the subject course to Reading 1, and I'll save that. Okay. Now, the other thing you might notice is this asterisk, and it says new. That just means that I don't have that item in my account already. So what it's going to do is it'll create it for me, which is nice. So these are all the different library resources. And so it's going to create those in my account when I import this. So I'll go ahead and choose Accept Selected Items. And there we go. Now I'm back in my account, and I have a Reading 1 plan, and this is the plan that I just imported from the shared lesson plan library, and I'm ready to go ahead and use it. So let's talk a little bit about that. How do I use this now? So if you recall, these are lesson plan items, and so they are essentially that stack of lessons on my desk. But now my student's ready to go ahead and use them. So I can go ahead and select the ones that I want to schedule for my student. I'm going to choose the first 5 of these. And then I'll just choose Action, Scheduler. And I can run through a scheduling process here. So I can schedule them for more than one student at a time. I'm just going to choose Campbell, and I'll choose Continue Today and Date. I want these to happen every day, and I want them to happen from 9 to 10 every morning. And I'm going to have it start next Monday. And I can say continue until all items, or excuse me, all selected items in the plan are used, or continue to a date. I'm going to choose selected because I selected 5 of them, so I'm just going to schedule next week, basically. And I can then click on continue to preview. And so again, this is starting to get familiar, right? This will continue to preview, and then the select all and accept. So once you start using Homeschool Tracker more and more, you'll get really familiar with these kind of paradigms, right? So I can preview this, and so Monday is going to be the first day of the lesson plan. Tuesday will be the second day, and so on. So I can just select all these and then choose Accept Selected Items. And there we go. So now if I jump to my agenda and take a look at it and go to next week, there you go. You'll see I've got the Ancient History 1 assignments that we created ourselves. And then I have this Reading 1 assignment right after that. And if I open those, you'll see that, this is the first day. This is the second day. They're all a little bit different. And now those lesson plan items have been scheduled and they've become assignments for my student. Now, the cool thing is those lesson plan items are still there in the lesson plan. These assignments that I created are independent of that lesson plan now. So once they become assignments and they go through that scheduler, they are no longer really kind of tied back to the lesson plan. So if I wanted to change this, kind of modify it, add some additional notes for Campbell, whatever it might be, I'm not modifying or editing the original lesson plan, because now I'm just changing the assignment. And actually, if I go back to the lesson plan, you'll see these are all still here. So if I wanted to, I could take these first two and assign them to my other student, or whatever it might be. That's really the power of the lesson plan, is the ability to always kind of go back to that pile of lessons and schedule them for another student. Or in the case of Campbell, the next time I go and I want to run this, I can just grab from where she left off and never have to necessarily worry about which ones have we done, which ones have we done, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's one way to schedule lesson plans. Pretty simple. You select the ones you want and then you schedule them. There's a more advanced way, and if you go to the lesson plans and presets page, one thing I will mention on what I showed you just previously, when we think about workflows, you could create lesson plans and then schedule 5 days at a time for the entire week, and very quickly create all of the assignments that you might need for your student. Okay, so this is loaded now. This is the lesson plans and presets page, and this is really kind of a more advanced way of scheduling. It allows you to schedule more than one lesson plan at a time, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit. I'm going to add another lesson plan for Campbell to go through this advanced scheduler. And I'm going to add that Reading 1 plan that we just created. Then I'm going to go to Preset. And what presets are, this obviously looks like a calendar. What presets are they are preset blocks of time on a given day when I want a particular subject and course to happen. So you'll see, this is Monday through Friday. There's no dates here because this is just any particular Monday. And on Mondays from 9 to 10, I want ancient history to happen. From 10 to 11, I want spelling, and so on. I'm going to go ahead and add another preset for Reading 1. And I'm going to have it happen from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll go ahead and save that. And so there we go. Now I have a preset for Language Arts Reading 1. And now if I go to the scheduler from here, what it's going to allow me to do is select more than one lesson plan at a time. So I'm going to select all 7 of these lesson plans, and I'm going to continue to day and date. And now normally, you would pick, if I want this to happen daily, weekly, monthly, etc. I'm going to choose preset. And so what it's going to do is the scheduler is going to look through those lesson plans. It's going to match up the subject course, and then it's going to look at my presets and match those times up, and then schedule those items during those preset blocks of time that I want them to happen. So let's go ahead and schedule this for starting the week of the 27th. And I'm going to end on the 1st. So we're just going to schedule that 1 week right here. And I'll continue to preview. And so here's the preview. There are 45 items. Basically, we took 7 different lesson plans, a bunch of different presets, and we said schedule those 7 lesson plans at these preset times. And you'll see here, Ancient History 1 on Monday is from 9 to 10. Spelling is from 10 to 11. If we look down here, Reading is from 3 to 4. And then Tuesday, similar pattern, but as it's going, it's building, my student's agenda for the entire week based off of all those different lesson plans. And each one of these assignments is unique. It's like there's specific activities, specific PLC, because I'm using robust lesson plans where we put a lot of that information in, and I'm scheduling them in this really powerful way. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of these and choose accept. So now what it's doing is taking those 45 lesson plan items across 7 different lesson plans, and it's creating assignments at these specific dates and times for Campbell. So once this finishes loading, now I'm just going to jump back to the agenda and take a look at this. So again, you'll remember this was that 1 week. Now if we move to the next week, there you have it. So this is my pretty full agenda for Campbell that was created from those 7 different lesson plans and using all those different presets. So again, thinking about workflow, this is kind of more of the power user, right? Where if you go in and create detailed lesson plans for all of your courses, or however you want to organize it, and you want them to happen at specific times, you can put those presets in, and you could essentially every Sunday night or Monday morning, however you want to do it, go in and schedule your week ahead with just a couple of clicks. That did not take a lot of time, and have a very robust agenda for your student for the entire week. Now, one thing I will say, it can be really tempting to schedule your entire year all at once. I caution folks from doing that because it really limits your flexibility in terms of rescheduling or moving faster or slower, depending on your student's progress. So I would recommend just scheduling 1 week or 2 weeks at a time, because then it's really more manageable. So if you had to take a day off, or if your student started working faster, you can quickly modify, how you're scheduling things versus scheduling the entire year up front and then having to shuffle things around all the time. Okay. So those are lesson plans. Very briefly, reports. We won't get into too deep into reports, but reports are essentially PDFs that you can save, print, or send. And the daily task list is a great report for use day to day. And transcripts and report cards, these can be generated as long as you have at least 1 completed and graded assignment in a course. So let's jump over here and take a look at the daily task list. So from the report section in the menu, I'm going to choose daily task list. And a lot of different options here on what to include or not include. What I'm looking for here is the date range. So I'm going to go and do a daily task list for the entire week of the 27th. That's the week that we just scheduled with those 45 items. And I'm going to click on Generate Report. And now it's generated. I can pick this up, and it'll download a PDF file. And so here it is. So this is really just a list of all of the assignments and items that Campbell has to do over this week. And I could print this out. I could put it on a bulletin board or on a clipboard, whatever you might want to do. And we both know then exactly what she has on her agenda. So that's a great report. If you still want to stick with paper and print things out, you could certainly do it this way. A lot of folks might use the daily task list, or they might just have their student log in to Homeschool Tracker themselves and see what it is that they're working on, and go from there. So that is the daily task list. All right, now just to recap on workflows, and we went over a number of them as we were going, but you can certainly create and complete single assignments on a daily basis, right? That first example I showed you where we created 1 assignment, graded it, marked it complete, good to go. And a lot of folks do this, and this is actually how I'd recommend folks just starting out try Homeschool Tracker. That also works in reverse. So if you are an unschooler, or again, if you're just starting out, at the end of the day or at the end of the week, you could go in and create single assignments for all the work that you did. And Homeschool Tracker is a great logging tool for that. You can also do multiple assignments on a weekly basis and work that way. Or you can get a little bit more advanced and start using lesson plans and scheduling all of your students 1 week or 2 weeks at a time, using either the presets and the more advanced scheduler, or just selecting the items you want to schedule and going and scheduling them. Now, keep in mind, lesson plans, while they are really powerful and time-saving, they are optional, right? There's no requirement to use them. Only if you think that it would benefit you would I recommend actually, kind of going in there and starting to use them. So that's part of the beauty of Homeschool Tracker, is that it's just really this open platform. You can use any way that you see fit. And that's kind of homeschooling too, in a nutshell, right? There's not a lot of rules. It's up to you to decide how you want to homeschool. And same goes for Homeschool Tracker. We're not trying to, make you follow a given workflow or kind of, shoehorn you into the way that we think things should be done, because just like homeschooling, there are a number of different ways to go about it. And so we wanted to create a piece of software that allowed you to use it the way that works best for you. All right, so I know I was talking really fast. I was just trying to be aware of our time. It's 8:56 now. And if you have any questions, certainly go ahead and click on that Q&A button, and I'm happy to answer all of them. And also, if you can't think of a question now but have one later, you can certainly email us at support@homeschooltracker.com, and we would be happy to answer any and all of your questions. So go ahead and feel free to submit any questions if you have them, and I'm happy to answer them. So no questions coming in. I'm going to see if any were submitted ahead of time. But if you are thinking of something, feel free to go ahead and type it in there. We are recording this, and we'll definitely send a recording out to everybody. But let's just see if anybody had asked something ahead of time. I know it's, June is kind of not many people are digging into Homeschool Tracker just yet. But I know that in July and August and September, things will get pretty busy. Okay, so let's see. Colleen asked a question. Why does the GPA say infinity? And that's a great question. It's actually just a math thing, obviously. So I'll show you how you can fix that. If you go to your grading scales right here and open up the grading scale that you're using, you'll want to make sure that this button is checked. Include in GPA Calc and include GPA Calc. Oh, that's a typo. Include GPA Calc in transcripts. Make sure that this is checked, and then you shouldn't get that infinity error on your transcript. That's something that we have in our backlog to fix to give you a better error message than just infinity. But this is the solution to that. Make sure that box is checked. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions that may have come in. It doesn't look like it. So if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Again, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you as a customer. And if you have any questions, again, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out, support@homeschooltracker.com. And I hope you all have a great night, and hope to see you again soon. All right, thanks.